When I was 37, I went into the ER with what I thought was a spiking fever and left 16 days later with a stage 4 melanoma diagnosis. The oncologist that admitted me gave me my tumor report. And when my wife Jen asked him what we were looking at, he said, "I'll be surprised if he's here in 2 years." So after I was diagnosed, I had a lot of time for research, sitting in the hospital for 2 weeks and determining what my next steps were. I knew that it wasn't going to be just the regular standard of care. I had a 2-month-old son. I didn't want him to grow up without a father. And I was determined to find the best treatment that would give me a durable response. Reading the available treatments, knowing that there were dismal 5-year survival rates, it was discouraging realizing I had so few options, until I started understanding that clinical trials had different drugs that weren't available to the general public. After realizing that clinical trials was likely my best option, we began looking at every available trial for a stage 4 melanoma patient. We decided to get several second opinions and found a cancer center that offered a unique trial, and one that I became the first patient ever to get a series of therapies in a certain order. That, to me, was going to give me the best chance to watch my children grow up. My family and I found a very reputable research institute that offered clinical trials for melanoma. We journeyed there several hours from our house, met with the oncologist, and asked him, if you were 37 years old, if you had a small family, what would you do to get a durable long-term response? And he offered us trial A or trial B and said, I would do one of these two. Once we decided on option B for my trial, we were ready to go. The medical staff at the research facility let us know that there were some legal documents that were finished, they were just about finished being signed, and we should very shortly be able to enroll. I was being the first patient on the study. They were simply finishing the legal documents, and we went home, and we were ready to start the study that week. And we waited, and we waited. After several weeks of waiting, the oncologist finally called and said, the trial that you want to do hasn't got their contract signed yet. Maybe it's time to start thinking about plan B. I looked at the phone and said, there's no way, if you told me this was the best option for me to watch my children grow up, that I'm going to have to pass on it because a contract isn't signed. To you, this might be a document. To me, this is my life. And there is not a chance that I'm going to just let that go by simply because somebody somewhere has a piece of paper on their desk without a signature. After I got off the phone with the oncologist that day, the first call I made was to the trial sponsor. I asked to be connected to their legal department and said, I am an oncology patient trying to get on a study drug for one of your oncology drugs, and I can't get on it because a contract is sitting on someone's desk there without a signature. They didn't really know what to say, and I didn't get any response from them that day. So I went on LinkedIn and I found friends who worked there, and I called them and said, this document is not signed, and I have less than 100 weeks left to live if I don't get on one of these trials. 2 days later, the sponsor called the oncologist, and the oncologist called me and said, I don't know what you did, but you're approved. Get here on Monday and we're going to start the trial. At the end of the 4 months for the study, we had a CAT scan, and the scan showed progressive disease. I was not responding to the drug. The doctor said, it's time to look at plan B. And I asked him, what does plan B look like? What are we going to do? He told me I would get on this other trial that we have coming. I asked him, well, do we have a contract signed? He said, well, it should be signed soon. That's not going to happen. We're not going to do this again. Fortunately, while we were waiting for the CAT scan results to come back, a melanoma advocacy group found the same drug on a different trial right down the street from our house in Florida.